Alright, I'm hot as actual sweaty balls, and I'm not wearing any pants, so let's get into this. Hi. Hello. It's Maya. Welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna sound like an actual YouTuber for once, and if you're new here, why don't you hit that subscribe button at the bottom. I usually say this at the end of my videos, but I'm saying it at the beginning now, because I can. So, subscribe. I don't have any reasoning why you should, just do it, because you clicked the video for a reason, am I right? Alright, shut up, bitch. Let's just get into the video. So, you want a septum piercing. I gotcha. As you can see, I don't know if it's noticeable or not, it's kind of small, but I have this thing in my nose, and I'm gonna talk to you about that thing in my nose. Hopefully this is kind of an informative video. Hopefully this is something that you can refer back to. And I'm gonna take this off. I'm kind of hoping this is maybe like your one and done stop. You know, you don't gotta watch 20 different videos. You can just watch this one. I'm gonna kind of go over the basics of septum piercings, my personal experience, and then I'm gonna also go over the different types of jewelry and how to put them in. And as a bonus, I'm gonna show you guys how I put in a silicone tunnel in my 8-gauge septum ring piercing, because that was something I did not know how to do, and nobody told me how to do it because all the ways that they were giving me did not work. So I did like my own little twist on it, and I don't know if I've seen anybody do it before, but whatever. Not the point right now. If you have watched my stretching guide, you'll have noticed that I put timestamps in the description. I'm gonna do that with this video, and we're gonna get right into this. Little backstory on me: I got my septum pierced on my 16th birthday. So I'm almost 23, so I've almost had it for 7 years now. So it's been 6.5 years. I'm old. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember the cost of it. All I can say is that I got it pierced at a 12-gauge. I'm gonna get into the pain, all that bullshit in a bit, but firstly, I want to start off with kind of like the basics of a shop. Like I said, I'm not sure how much I paid for it. Well, I didn't pay for it, it was my birthday present. So I'm not sure how much my mom paid for it. However, I do believe it was around $30 to $40. Now, I am going to say that that is the average, the low point, I would say. If you go to any reputable piercing shop, $40 for a septum piercing is a good baseline. That, I feel like, is a price where you know that the piercer at least has good experience. They're not somebody who can't be trusted, and you know, they're not an apprentice. And if they do happen to be an apprentice who's giving out piercings for low rates, you know that they at least have their seasoned piercer watching over them so that nothing goes wrong. Obviously, the higher the price point, the more, I guess, reputable you can say that the shop is, or the piercer themselves are. You pay for what you get, essentially. Anything under that, I would maybe second guess the shop, second guess the piercer, do your research on the place that you're going, the person who is piercing you, ask any questions that you may have, and I'm sure that they'll be happy to answer it for you. So the cost, it's gonna vary by state, and it's gonna vary by what shop you go to. And speaking of which shop you go to, look around, don't just go to the first shop that you see, read reviews online, call up the shop, ask them what their prices are, ask any questions you need that's gonna make you feel comfortable. Now, if you're ever unsure about a shop, all you really need to do is make sure that they are using gloves, proper sanitization is taking place, the materials that they're using are unopened and completely new. Make sure that you're given a waiver that needs to be signed, and make sure that they're checking for your ID. If any of this isn't taking place, just run for the hills, find a different shop. It's not the end of the world. You're gonna want a good piercing and a good piercer, and somebody who's going to give you what you want rather than mess up your entire face. So now that that's done, we're gonna get into how a septum is pierced. A septum piercing, it's not just a name of a piercing like, you know, like a Monroe or a Dave. It's an actual part of your nose. Your septum is the very tip of your nose. Now you have bone up here at the top of your nose, you have cartilage right here, and then you just have, you know, regular old skin. Cartilage is the super hard part, but you'll notice that the further you go towards the tip of your nose, the more that cartilage disappears. The very tip of your nose, this is all just skin. Now, do what I do. Take your pinkies, stick them in your nose, and go to the very tip of your nose. I'm gonna put my head down at an angle because my mouth looks weird. Go to the very tip of your nose, and if you go backwards, so like towards your face, you can feel where your cartilage is. And if you go forwards, you can feel where this bit of skin is. Now, between that, there's a kind of thin membrane sort of area. This is the sweet spot. This is the septum. This is where you get pierced. Your septum piercing piercing. Your septum piercing should always be at the very tip of your nose. When you get pierced, your ring should hang straight down. So it shouldn't be bending forward, it shouldn't be bending backwards, it shouldn't be at an angle or anything like that. It should be hanging straight down, and that's how you'll know that you got pierced correctly. If you happen to go home after getting pierced and you notice that the piercing looks like it's shifting, I would call your piercer, ask them what you should do about it. They may ask you to come in so that they can take a look at it. If it is severely bad, then just take it out, let it heal, go somewhere else. That's all you can do. Now, normally septums are pierced at either a 16 gauge or a 14 gauge. If you plan on stretching your nose, you can actually ask the piercer to pierce you at a larger size starting off. I'm sure they'll have no problem doing that. You can probably start off at either a 12 gauge or a 10 gauge, if you so wish. Mine personally was pierced at a 12 gauge. I'm not exactly sure why. I didn't ask any questions. I didn't realize how big he had pierced it at because it was my very first piercing and I didn't really have that much experience. Over the years, I've always just kind of assumed that maybe it was for healing. Maybe it was the fact that I have a bigger nose and he thought it would suit me better. I don't know. I'm not mad about it. Didn't hurt. We're all good. That's another thing. Pain level, it's subjective. Everybody's pain tolerances are different. For me personally, pain level is like a 4, 5 out of 10. Wasn't that bad. It was a quick pinch, eyes watered, ring was in, we were all good. It took literally 10 seconds altogether to like get the clamp situated, push the needle in, pull the whatever piece out, and then push the ring in, screw the ball on. Done. Now, when it comes to healing, septum piercings are usually fully healed after 3 months. It still can be tender to the touch for up to like a year. I know that's how it was for me. My nose was extremely sore and I could barely even like graze my finger across my nose for like the first month without it hurting. It was pretty sore for up to like 6 months or so, and then up to a year it was still pretty like tender to the touch, but now it's like I can smack myself in the face and I'm fine. So even when it's fully healed, it can still be sore. That's not anything that you really need to worry about. It's just, it's your nose. It's a very sensitive area. As for the actual healing process, honestly, it's probably one of the easiest piercings to heal and to clean. Your nose actually is self-cleaning, so you really don't need to use anything that's like a harsh chemical, any harsh soap, any sea salt soaks or like tea tree oils or anything like that. Really, all you need to do is wash it morning and night. I would use a unscented hand soap and just like lather it up in my fingers, gently rub it on the inside of my nose, get any like crusties or anything like that off, and then just give it a rinse. Just make sure that before you touch it, you wash your hands, make sure that you're all clean, and you'll be good. Now, if your piercing does happen to get infected, depending on the severity of it and when you happen to catch it, do a sea salt soak right away, or at least rinse your nose with sea salt. Don't put anything else on it, and then once again call your piercer, tell them that it's infected. They may have you come in so that they can take a look at it, and then they'll tell you what to do from there. Once it's fully healed, like I said, because your nose is self-cleaning, you really don't have to worry about cleaning it that much. I know that some people talk about their septum smelling bad. Honestly, that doesn't happen to me. When I wash my face at night, I'll like spin the ring and give it like a quick little rinse, but I have never let it get to the point where it smells horrible. But I do remember that when I did first get it pierced, it did kind of have like that weird smell for like the first year or so, but ever since then, the last 5 years, it's just kind of like, I don't gotta worry about it. And especially if you change your piercings often, it's not gonna be something that you have to like freak over about, like, oh shit, I didn't clean my nose today. Like, it's not a big deal. Like I said, septum piercings are pretty easy. The only downside is that they're kind of tender, and if you have a nose full of piercings like mine, they can kind of get in the way when blowing your nose, but it's not anything hard. Like, here's a tissue. Here's how I blow my nose. Literally, how does anybody else blow their nose? They put a tissue over their face. The only difference is that I'll kind of like stick my fingers in my actual nose just so that I'm making sure that I'm getting everything, and then I kind of pull everything out. You may notice that snot likes to get all built up around here. Stick a tissue in and do that, and you're all good. One thing that does suck, I will say, is that if you have allergies or when you're sick, there have been times where I don't even notice that I have snot hanging from my ring. And it's, I mean, I don't get grossed out by a lot of things, so like I don't think it's gross, but like I guess it's kind of gross. But yeah, that's not fun, just chilling in your room and then all of a sudden you put your front facing camera on and you have snot hanging from your nose. If you want to be extra cute like that, that's something that happens and you can look forward to it. Now we're going to get into the different types of piercings and how to change certain types of piercings. Well, that was fun. My eyes are watery. It's fine. Anyways, My septum is at an 8 gauge. So I have rings that go all the way from 16 gauge to 8 gauge. I do actually have a video showing off, well, all my septum rings at that time. That was recorded. I don't know how long ago that was, but it was a while ago. So I have gotten more since. But yeah, if you want to see like the vast majority of my septum piercings, I will put it in the little info box thingy, whatever, and in the description down below. So these are horseshoes. This is a standard type of piercing that you will get when you get your septum pierced. It's what I got. It's generally what everybody gets. This one is a 16 gauge, I believe, and this one is an 8 gauge. I don't wear the 16 gauge one very often because I like to have big, obnoxious jewelry in my nose, but I also don't wear this 8 gauge one very often because I don't like the way it hangs in my nose. These are really easy to get in and out. All you do is unscrew the ball and then just slip it in and screw the ball back on. These aren't hard to put in at all. Next we have clickers. Clickers are generally 16 gauge to 14 gauge. These two that I have right here are both 16 gauge and this one is a 14 gauge. Now clickers have a flat segment. Sometimes they're curved, just depends on what the piercing is, but clickers just will snap off and then snap back on. You can also have rings like this. These aren't clickers, but they're pretty much the same concept except that they just don't click into place. They just kind of stretch apart and stretch back together. Then we have pinchers. Pinchers are kind of little horseshoe shaped looking guys. The only thing is that they don't have balls at the end. They're just really thin little points. I really like how pinchers look on people who have bigger gauge sizes, so like a 4 gauge to like a 2 gauge, just because I love the way that it like sits in their nose. Maybe one day I stop being a pussy, I'll stretch to that size, but for now I'm content with where I'm at. So these are probably like the easiest piercings to wear. You literally just slip them in and out and they look cute. Next we have a hinged ring. This is kind of like a clicker. It's kind of like a segment ring and a clicker mixed. Most segment rings you kind of just like pull apart. It's like this and you just pull them apart, slip them through, and then push them back together. So it's kind of like a segment clicker mix, if that makes sense. Now a hinge ring is a full circle segment ring that opens like that. So you just snap it into place. Now we're getting into the difficult piercings. Here I have 2 captive bead rings. Now they may look the same, but they are different. This one is a 10 gauge and this one is an 8 gauge. Besides just that, this 10 gauge one has a ball that snaps in and out of place, whereas this 8 gauge one has a ball that kind of clicks in and out of place. So I'll show you the 8 gauge first, and as you can see on the ball as I take it out, it has these 2 little squishy things on the side that are kind of just like, they're kind of just like little buttons, and what they do is when you have the ring in your nose, you just line them up and you click it into place. Now with this 10 gauge one, you can see the difference is that if I take the ball off, instead of having those 2 little button things, this one has indents. Now these are kind of difficult to get in and out. You may want a ring opener if you have a larger size and the ball is like this. Once you get the hang of it, it is fairly easy. It's just a matter of getting everything lined up correctly and having a little bit of patience. And lastly, we have the thing that's in my nose at the moment, which is a closed segment ring. Some of them can be fairly easy to get in and out, such as this black one that I have. This one literally pops in and out so easily. I barely had to stretch it when I got it. It's pretty much like how the captive bead rings are, except it's obviously just a little part of the actual ring. It has the 2 little notches in it that snap into the ring and it just chills like that. Now when you first get them, they are incredibly tight, especially this one that I got, but I'm gonna show you how to bypass that. You can just use regular pliers. These are normal garage working man pliers. Since this ring was super easy to stretch out, I literally just went like this until the ring fell out. However, this one was hard as shit, let me tell you. So I bought this. This is, what is this? I don't even know. This is a ring opener. You can buy these on any piercing site. They're not cheap, but they're also not expensive. I got this one for $10. Now these really help because if you have something that is super hard to open, all you have to do is put the ring in one of these notches here and then just squeeze. Well, yeah, that just fell right out, but you just squeeze and it'll open up and the segment will fall out. Now you want to kind of keep doing that a little bit because you want to stretch the ring out somewhat. You want it to be easy to get the segment in and out. You don't want to like just barely stretch the ring open so that you get the segment out and then you put the ring in your nose and you try putting the segment in and you can't get it in, and then you also don't want to do it to where you can get the segment in but then you can't get it out. Now for me personally, this one is stuck in my nose. Like it will not come out for the life of me. However, if I take a mirror really quick and I find, oh, it's right at the bottom. If I see where the segment is, which I guess it's hanging right at the bottom, I can take my little thingy-majingy, and anytime you do this, you're gonna want to go slow because obviously you don't want to hurt yourself. Look at that, it just popped right out. And then I can take this out and I can show you that this one has little, it's kind of like the balls, but they're very flat balls and they don't, and they don't like push in and out. And as you can see, as I just close this, I can't pull this one out very easily. Definitely nowhere near as easy as I can with my black one. With any type of piercing that you wear in your nose or just anywhere in general, it's gonna take time. You can buy latex gloves to make it easier so that you have a better grip on the jewelry, but over time, over the years, you'll practice and obviously things will get a lot easier for you. It is just something that takes a lot of patience. Trust me, you guys have no idea how many times I have sat in front of my mirror for like 15 minutes straight trying to like fix something in my nose or get something out or put something in, and I just like can't do it and I get so mad. But that's when you just give up and you're like, fuck you, I'll do it another day. Now the last thing I want to show you is how I get a tunnel in my septum. Now I've seen this done with bigger gauge sizes, however I am at a measly 8 gauge. Anytime I googled it, I always saw something called the bobby pin method and I was like, okay, cool, like show me how it works. And then I would see how it worked and I'm like, how is that supposed to get in my nose? But what I do essentially is I use a bobby pin but I stretch it out. Now what I've always seen is that people will like fold the little tunnel and stick it somewhere on the bobby pin, put the bobby pin through their nose, and then somehow the tunnel just happens to stay. But that never worked for me because I can never get this to fold and stay. So what I do is I put the tunnel through the bobby pin. Now obviously this tunnel is an 8 gauge. I'm fairly certain that the diameter of it, or the width, or whatever the hell, I can't think right now, is about 1/4 of an inch. So that's like the perfect size for my nose. But I just slip this on, and what you do is, depending on if your nose is runny or not, put some oil on it so that the slide is easy. But you put it through your nose, and as you're putting it through, hold your finger at the end of the bobby pin, and once you get it to the tip of your nose, you just kind of like wiggle it in, and like you use your finger to make sure that it's going through your nose and it's not just gonna like come out the other end like that or anything. And then you just thread the rest of the bobby pin all the way through and it's in your nose and you're all done. So yeah, hopefully that's kind of helpful if you're like me and you're like, I can't get this fucking tunnel in my nose. But also you may be wondering why you would want to wear a tunnel in your nose, and that's because for me, being at an 8 gauge, if I wear anything smaller than a 10 gauge, everything just kind of like flops around, so I can't really wear clickers comfortably and they don't hang nicely in my nose unless I'm wearing something that kind of makes my hole a bit smaller. God, why does that sound sexual? I need something that makes my hole smaller so that I can put smaller things in it. And we're gonna move on. Now, the video is finally almost over. If that's all the information you needed, you can click off. Bye. But if you want to stretch your nose, I'm gonna give you the most basic rundown. It's kind of like stretching your ears. Make sure that your nose is fully healed. Make sure that you're not using any bad materials. So obviously don't use wood, horn, bone, silicone, anything like that. Or acrylics. Definitely don't wear acrylics or use acrylic tapers. All you do when stretching your nose is, if you're at a 16 gauge, you obviously go from a 16 to a 14 to a 12 to a 10, 8 to 8, 6. Wow, I skipped a lot of numbers there. You stretch slowly. Don't skip sizes. Don't rush. Any pain, any bleeding, any struggling, just wait, okay? Have patience. When stretching, it's just like stretching your ears. If you want more in-depth information, literally just watch my stretching guide or my other stretching video and basically just take the basic principles from that and apply it to your septum. But all you're gonna do is, I'm pretty sure this is an 8 gauge, so let's say my septum's at a 10 gauge, slide the taper in, leave it in your nose, take your next size, and then push it in. Put the ball on, you're all done. The best materials for this are going to be a simple stainless steel, a titanium grade steel, glass, pretty much it. That's all I'm going to recommend to you. Another thing you can do is buy a pincher in the next size, because the pincher starts off small and then it gets bigger. So if you watch my video where I stretched to 8 gauge, this is actually what I put in my nose first, just because I wanted to see if my septum was going to be ready or not. So I slowly slipped this in and it fit perfectly, and I was like, okay, cool. So I don't even have to put a taper in or really stretch my nose. I can just put in the next size. For some people, stretches are going to be easy. For some people, it's going to be difficult. You can also apply the taping method to stretching your septum. This, I feel, works better at larger sizes though. And you can also dead stretch your septum. This is kind of what happened to me. I was at a 12 gauge for such a long time that when I wanted to go to a 10 gauge, all I did was buy a captive bead ring and it slipped right in. Very same thing happened when I went to 8 gauge. If you wear any type of heavy jewelry, it's going to weigh down whatever area of your body that you're wearing it in, and over time your body's just naturally going to get accustomed to it. It's going to loosen up around that area and the hole's going to get bigger. It's not going to be incredibly noticeable, but it's going to happen. And I mean, if you want to stretch your nose, why would you complain about that? You feel me? I think that's everything. I'm hoping that I kind of covered any questions, any comments, any concerns. Septum piercings are very cute and they can be very flattering, and I know that I don't feel at all comfortable if I don't have something in my nose. And you know, that's fine. They're a very easy piercing to heal. They're very easy piercing to take care of. Keep it clean, wear the correct materials, and just go to somebody who knows what they're doing, and you should have like a really easy time with it. I am all done. I was talking for way too fucking long. If you watched this whole thing, thank you. If you didn't, also thank you. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I'll try to answer them. If I don't answer them, it's either an obvious answer or I answered it in this video. So you can decide. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped you out. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next video.